Hello and welcome to Simplilearn's webinar, AI or Data Science, Mapping Your Career Path with Ronald van Loon, the CEO of Intelligent World, Advisory Board member at Simplilearn in Data Science. I'm Stuart Creek. I'm a marketing manager here at Simplilearn, and we hope you have an enjoyable webinar today and find it very useful. A few notes about how to operate WebEx controls. When you wish to ask a question, use the question mark button, enter your question in the box, hit send, and we will keep track of those questions for the Q&A at the end of the webinar. And you can send messages to the panelists by using the chat button, selecting all panelists. Again, remember to hit send, and we'll keep track of those as well. We're also going to do some interaction in the form of polls. And we'll start with one simple one. It has two questions. And this poll asks, what's your current job role and how are you feeling today? And we'll keep it open for just about a minute. So let us know what current job role you have. Also give us a thumbs up or thumbs down reading on how you feel today. And we'll give you about 20 more seconds to answer the poll. All right. You have your last opportunity to enter your answers. Remember to hit submit in 10 and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We can see that poll results are here. And it's good to see that most of you are feeling well today. So let's go on and I will introduce Ronald. Ronald van Loon is the CEO of Intelligent World. He's one of the foremost thought leaders in data science and digital transformation, and he was named by Analytica as the world's #1 influencer in data and analytics, automation, and the future of the economy and tech. He's an author for leading big data and data science sites, including Dataflow and Data Science Central, and he's an advisory board member here at Simplilearn. Very pleased to have him today, and welcome, Ronald.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we'll start with a question. Why is there often confusion surrounding where to start when it comes to approaching career in AI or data science?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Stuart, and once again, thanks for having me, but also thank you to the audience for joining us today. I think today's topic is quite an interesting one because although many aspiring industry professionals, they ask this question, but there's actually very little available, very information available to help them to best choose and direct your career path. So if you need to choose between AI or between data science, if you look to some analyst firms like Gartner, for example, they say that 80% of the emerging technologies are going to have an AI foundation by 2021, and that's already just in a couple of months. Another analyst firm IDC, they say 75% of the commercial apps, they will be using AI in 2021. So that's AI. If we look to data science, it's, I think, an incredibly resilient career if you choose that direction. And in fact, even throughout the hardship of the pandemic, 45% of the businesses are still prioritizing data and analytics as a key priority. And this is according to the International Institute of Analytics. So despite this whole widespread job disruption the pandemic has brought us, there's still been some intense competition for talent in this domain, which is good for everybody. In our webinar, many students I see, but also many people from different roles, different backgrounds, different experience probably as well. So I think if you start either way, in general, you can't go wrong. But the confusion, what we see is arises because there's a lot of overlap between AI and between data science, and there's conflicting perspectives on how to start when it comes to approaching your educational path and ultimately probably even your career path. And further, often we see an overlapping educational courses for two different subjects as well. So AI is a broad area that has numerous type of subsets. You can think about machine learning, deep learning, computer vision, robotics, AR, and VR. So all these technologies, they all revolve around data, and they have they need massive quantities of data in order to facilitate the analysis processes, build your models, and develop your algorithms, for example. So AI technologies, they need data scientists in order to transform the data into useful, purpose-driven business growth, because in the end you want to have results, but also turn it into operational efficiency or better decision-making, or propel research forward in areas like biomedicine or even aerospace. So data science utilize AI technologies to interpret it and to analyze this data, but also to discover the patterns and to make predictions and to generate the insights. And the technologies depend on data science practices for data prep, but also training machine learning algorithms and systems. So let's use the same machine learning example for a moment. So with data prep for machine learning models, data has to be collected. Then the condition of the data has to be evaluated and examined for your trends, inconsistent or missing information, so the model outputs aren't skewed. And then the data must be formatted for consistency, that the data can be accurately aggregated. And after that, the data quality has to be enhanced by filling in the missing values before you're performing your feature engineering to ensure that your algorithms have good representation of the data. So, and then then the data has to be curated for the training from the machine learning algorithms. So many careers actually require extensive data scientist skills. And as touched on in the beginning, there are many career opportunities in both fields. So data scientist related jobs are experiencing a substantial growth, 37% more growth in demand for these type of jobs. And they have been on the top of LinkedIn emerging job lists already now for 3 years. So for now, you can't go wrong with any choice. And a lot of this growth that's due to the evolving state of careers like statistician, or the emergence of new data demands in areas like high-level research, for example. So hiring for data engineer has also jumped, and almost 35% in the last 5 years, which is substantial, and mostly because of the need to build and to manage infrastructures to handle this technology adoption. If we look to AI specialist careers, they are booming as well, and the annual hiring rates have increased by even 74% over the last 4 years. Next to that, we have, for example, cybersecurity specialist roles that have been quickly growing this year, and LinkedIn has reported that demand these skills that have risen by around 30% on an annual basis. I think an interesting note as well on this career is that the security career is that there's many openings in government positions as well, for example, in the US, in Washington, D.C. But these are just a few examples, and to be frankly, there's so many statistics for careers in AI and in data science that demonstrate growth in hiring rates and in demand. And finally, I think there has been a changing demand for specific skill set due to the current circumstances, due to the pandemic, and the corresponding increase in technology adoption across pretty much every industry that we see the last couple of months. So hopefully, Stuart, this gives a little bit of an overview and clarifies the confusion.
Appreciate that. Can you do me a favor? Ronald, we're having a question about whether people can see your PowerPoint. Would you reshare it, please?
Yeah, I will. Let me know once you can see it again.
Give me a moment. Let me take over the presentation and then reshare your ability. Hold on. Okay, now you should be able to share your PowerPoint again.
Okay, let me try. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
hopefully.
Now people are able to see it.
Okay, great.
I'm not
Sorry,
sure.
I wasn't aware because I was sharing it, so.
Yeah, you were, and I was seeing it on my end, but unfortunately WebEx was not broadcasting. So let's move on then. First off, if you go back one slide so that people can see what the content was. And we talked about the interactions and overlaps between AI and data science. And now let's go ahead. So what are the main differences between AI and data science?
Yeah, so maybe give a quick generalizations. If we look to AI has very high levels of scientific processing versus data science, which relies more on the statistical and the mathematical techniques. We first start looking deeper into the data science part. So a driver for many revolutionary advances in almost every industry is the integral to our own modern concept of being data driven. Every company wants to achieve this, which is necessary basically, I think, for almost every business today, and especially now in this pandemic. So without data science, there, for example, wouldn't be the recommendation engines, which you are when you're shopping on Amazon, or for example, the personalized menus that you are scrolling if you're watching Netflix. There's also no Strava Fitness. I don't know if everybody knows it. It's an app for when you're doing fitness, where they have a social network where they help cities to support their athletes. Also, another type of example is Wattpad, which is providing a hosting platform for over 4 million self-published authors and more than 80 million readers. They don't have these recommendations if you don't have data science. And although this, I think, particular examples, one is the Wattpad has been featured in some of the major online publications recently. Another example is, which I had the pleasure a couple of weeks ago to hear firsthand information about how they're advancing the weather prediction industry, where data science is really crucial. So they're using data from a ton of different sources, and you can think about sensors that they even put on cars to better predict the weather conditions and help businesses and other entities to improve the safety and avoid problems that come from bad weather conditions, storms, floods, etc. So data science, I think, is a multidisciplinary field that derives insights from the data to help and to improve their decision making, and to drive digital transformation into initiatives within organizations, but also to overcome very specific challenges that organizations have that can be solved by data. So on a technical level, I think it's statistically driven, and data science involves pre-processing, it involves analysis, but also you have to think about pattern identification or visualization and prediction. And it's the ability to understand all these data trends and understand all the patterns. So for example, data scientists in financial services can analyze data to help companies to optimize their financial products and their financial services to improve the customer experience, but also to perform risk analysis. let me share also an example for AI. I had recently an interesting discussion with a top technology provider, which was in the healthcare space, and they were telling me how important data analytics were, not only for creating new levels of efficiency and innovation in areas, for example, like diagnostics, where you can imagine it, but also for ensuring that doctors can simply focus on the patient care, so augment a doctor. So say you are a healthcare provider, like a hospital, and you're dealing with a lot of medical equipment and a lot of medical technology. So all this generates tons of data, and this data can be really challenging to manage and to turn into insights for fast diagnostics and decision making. And especially if you are on the intensive care or emergency departments, where it's a matter of life and death. So AI technologies, they help them to turn into this huge amount into transformational solutions into the space, like ruling out any number of potential issues, for example, and helping to quickly figure out what the root cause is of a patient's medical issue when there's numerous possibilities as what the issue could be, and especially in emergency situations. This is really crucial, and it can help the diagnosis for the doctors. So AI is about understanding, and it's about interpreting data and using predictive models to forecast these type of future events. It enables also machines to make connections between different data components, and it brings automation to all different kinds of business processes for better cost efficient work. RPA is a good example, which is evolving right now with the help of AI. In other ways, it's used to help people to perform their jobs better, taking over these tasks that aren't valuable for us, this typical mundane task, and the people can work and focus more on one hand the complex work, but also on more the creative type of work. And AI uses computer algorithms and principles from computational algorithms and software engineering. For example, it's creating a machine learning and natural language processing algorithms for more context-aware type of advertising. So, yeah, hopefully this makes it the difference between AI and data science more clear. But I think in the coming questions we will dive even more into this subject.
Thank you. So which industries and types of companies are hiring data science and AI professionals these days?
Yeah, I think I can have a list of 50 or 100 industries. I think every industry that has some kind of data uses data analytics and can hire data science and AI professionals. But I think I can select a couple of them to go a little bit more in depth. So, for example, take manufacturing. Imagine spending hundreds of hours manually going over video footage of a pipe system, or of a propeller on a commercial airline, or controlling electrical wires along a power line. Yeah, that's something that you don't want to do manually. Because of data science and AI, this can be automated so that the human workers don't have to spend all the time checking these type of hazardous type of time-consuming activities, but they're also very error-prone if people are doing it. If you can do this with computer vision and image recognition, you can be very accurate and fast. And in the manufacturing industry, data scientists, they implement, for example, RPA, robot process automation solutions that improve building and assembly in factories across over the world, and also automate legacy systems with RPA. Or manufacturing analytics are used to improve the processes and the operations by analyzing data from your factory and from your manufacturing plants and your logistical operations. So different areas within the manufacturing domain are specific and are specific to explore. But also we have, of course, the general departments, which is applicable for every industry, whether it's sales and marketing, whether it's finance, for example. Let's discuss another industry, for example, finance. So AI-enabled automation can potentially save banks in the US more than 70 billion by 2025. So that's according to Business Insider. But this type of amount, this really indicates the value of AI and of data science. So in finance, everything from fraud detection, or you can think about financial analysis, or improving investment strategies, or debt collection, or even regulatory compliance. These are areas that data scientists are needed. Then if we talk, and I expect many of them are in this webcast, it's the Gen X and the millennials. They are becoming the biggest customers for financial institutions. And budgets are surging to support the R&D for this new digital solutions to make it appeal to this group. So also in sales and marketing, there's a lot of room. There's also room for evolution here through AI, through machine learning, through deep learning, and demand for professionals with the right skill sets to develop these creative mobile banking services. That's just one of the available opportunities which you have in the financial industry. Another area I would like to touch is, for example, e-commerce. You can imagine everybody knows the large e-commerce companies who use a lot of AI technologies, but you can also think, for example, about Pokemon Go. And they use AR technology to superimpose virtual images into the real environment. So the augmented reality technology is driven by AI as well. Also retailers and e-commerce companies, whether you think about Burberry or maybe Nike or Sephora, they use augmented reality and virtual reality technologies to help the customers to shop more in an immersive and personal way. So the customers that use these technologies to virtually try on makeup, for example, or you can sit in your room and how your furniture looks like in your home before you even make a purchase. Last week, I saw even where you can buy a truck and you sit in the truck, you walk through the truck, and you do virtual truck buying or virtual car buying, which is new technologies that are there now to support digital sales, even of the biggest, let's say, assets that you never imagined you can sell virtually as well. So there's a lot of areas in this space for AI and for machine learning specialists, and also for data scientists to drive this new innovation and hone these existing technology solutions. So it's also common for data scientists to improve the customer personalization and implement, for example, chatbots that act as customer support agents, and improve marketing and advertising strategies that target this unique customer and business needs. Next to this one, I think there's one more industry which I would like to discuss, and I discussed it already before, is the health tech. So healthcare is a valuable field for data scientists because the doctors can work much more effectively, and the patients, they can be treated with much more accuracy. And everybody can imagine that's very valuable, and especially as the healthcare costs, they go sky high in every company and every country. So also, if you look in healthcare, improving treatment plans by analyzing patient data is very common. As well, for example, as drug discovery, what you have now with COVID-19, drugs that are developed, AI and data science play an important role, but also, for example, with pregnancy management. So in precision medicine, for example, patients can benefit from really personalized, individualized approaches to treatment based upon their own medical and the genetic history, or even their lifestyle and their environmental conditions, rather than using this one size fits all type of medicines. So what we see is that traditional higher education can use technologies like AI and help them rejuvenate this industry in all different kinds of valuable ways. So I think if we also look to some additional research conducted by Microsoft and by IDC recently, they say that 92% of the people served in the higher education institutions, they're already trying to use AI to create this competitive new solutions and better personalized education for the students. So there's a lot of potential areas for AI and for data science, and over in let's say as well to, for example, in education, or more in the communication to drive more inclusivity or equalizing in education, and to create more in-depth type of experimental learning scenarios. And that's, I think, very important now with the COVID-19 situation. So there are more, let's say, industries, but I think this is a couple of industries which are definitely high on the list.
Yeah, and as you said, it's currently spanning nearly every industry. So what are some of the most popular and in-demand types of careers in each of these two fields?
Yeah, as well here next to the different type of industries, there's quite some different careers that you can choose, which makes it great, but on the other hand, maybe that makes the choice more difficult. But I would like to take a couple of important, at least most the roles that are most in demand, and go through these. And yeah, maybe if you have more questions, you can ask afterwards. But there are so many different roles in this domain where you can define your career. So let's start, for example, with a data scientist. I think if you look to a data scientist, they are there to solve certain problems. They're also some kind of, sometimes it's called the wizards of data, and they have to extract meaning from the data and interpret it to help the companies to develop sometimes new products or help them to develop new services, but also can help them with overcoming operational challenges or make certain objective decisions really based upon data. So they do a lot of different things depending on the industry and depending on the company where they're working. So it's not that if you're a data scientist, you have a fixed items, a list of items that you have to do. So some examples are creating customized data products, so an organization can better understand their customers. Or you can think about developing extensive online experimental frameworks for product development, or streamlining your productization of your machine learning model. So there's a series of activities, and the data scientist is rather broad in supporting organizations. Another role, for example, is a BI developer. A BI developer uses different software tools to help turn data into insights that can help with the decision-making process. That's their general, let's say, role in the description. And they also might do everything from coding and testing and to helping to implement the new type of tools into the business process, the new type of analytics tools. But they're also, for example, responsible for translating business requirements into more technical requirements. So they're the bridge between business and IT, and they help with data warehouse designing, or they help with BI software development. An example, I think it would be like researching and planning out new type of solutions to address this a new different type of business problem. If you start with analytics, start with a business problem, and then you can like introducing new data visualization software so that all the users across the company can have access to the data when they need it, where they need it, and they can understand the data. So really democratizing the data. Another role I think which is important is a business analyst. They go between IT and business as well, and they use data analytics to evaluate processes, but also to figure out requirements and communicate all different kinds of data-driven solutions to the business leader. So they need to have very good communication skills and translation skills of translating, let's say, IT into understandable stories. And they are the drivers of change because of this. They introduce and they help and to manage these changes of the products, but also the new software, the hardware, and the processes to add value to your business. So they really need to understand the business and translate it into solutions. So, for example, they look at their company's historical and their current data, and then decide what can be brought into the company to make this the existing solutions work more efficiently. So it's really about improving every step in the business. Another important role, I think, is a data architect. I call them sometimes the puppet masters of data. They evaluate business data sources, and they develop a plan to integrate, but also centralize and to maintain all the different data sources. And maintaining data sources, you can imagine now, is becoming a big challenge for organizations, as they have so many different sources, so many different data types So this is an important role for organizations to have a solid foundation and to further grow. And in a way to make, they also help in a way to make sense out of this sometimes chaotic data and data landscape that organizations have. You probably all have heard of the data silos where organizations are struggling with, and every organization has, unless they maybe are a quite young company and could build everything on one platform. So they are often called upon to develop the roadmap for your data management. And as I said, this is becoming more important for organizations to have a long-lasting foundation. So this requires the knowledge of data modeling, but also database management, also data warehousing. And then to give an example, a data architect would be deployed to visualize how an adjustment in data acquisition would ultimately benefit the company and the use of data, and then create a framework to guide all the different data activities. One role, I think, AI, we were discussing today, data science and AI, so is an AI architect. I think it's even one of the hottest jobs at the moment. Their salaries often go over 100,000 US dollars annually. So this is one, if you can get such a role, you're in a very good position. So you can use AI technology frameworks as an AI architect to develop and to maintain an organizational architecture, and you can adapt it over time as businesses need to change. Organizations really need this right now. On one hand, they need a data management architecture, and as a next step, they need to have an AI architecture, which is part of the data management architecture, by the way. So this requires intensive knowledge of AI applications, but also all different kinds of tools and technologies and programming language like Python. To give an example, a business might hire an AI architect to develop a cohesive connectivity solution across various IoT type of sensors, move it to the cloud, and use a machine learning solution for this. Amazon, everybody knows them, is one of the biggest companies hiring in this domain, especially for AWS related type of functions. One last role I would like to address is robotics engineers. They work on physical bots like machine arms in industrial manufacturing, or they can work on drones for product delivery for e-commerce, or all different kind of applications as you can imagine with drones. Or they can work on virtual bots. You can think about conversational AI solutions, also called intelligent chatbots, and different kind of names, more or less for the same, which are often used in customer service. And there's quite some development to go to make them really human friendly. And this is a huge growing field, conversational AI, which will expand and change the world, I think substantially, as you get voice conversations with bots, which are going to a human level. So a professional in this area may devote their expertise to either a hardware or a software focused role. You have two choices. Typical someone in this field develops prototypes or creates and tests all different kinds of machines, and he or she can manage the software that supports the machines. But they also can, for example, research the best ways to manufacture robotic systems. And the funny thing is, there are quite some technology providers now coming on the market where you can have for $50, $60 a device where you can build robots with, which is a great way to start and to kick off and to start trying this. So that's always something to do. Educate yourself next to your job and see it as some kind of hobby. But there's, I think, many other type of roles. But yeah, due to the time, I think we are a little bit limited. But you have the computer vision engineer, you have the machine learning engineer, full stack engineer, a cloud engineer. So there's multiple different roles that can be addressed, how you can define your career path. So I covered a bunch of roles, Stuart, but maybe the other ones we do for another webcast.
Good idea. Good idea, Ronald. We can go ahead and do another poll. This one asks our attendees what roles do they or skills do they currently use in their jobs? Not roles, but skills in data science and AI, machine learning. And we listed just a few representative skills. Of course, it's not comprehensive, but if you go ahead and answer the poll, we'll keep it open just for about a minute or so. And then we'll get back to Ronald's presentation. But are you mostly involved in analytics, big data, business analytics, AI and machine learning, or do you use other data science and AI ML skills in your work today? Again, this is what you're currently using. What does your current job or role require you to use, and what do you feel comfortable using today? And we'll close the poll in 20 seconds. So if you get your answers in and hit submit. Within the next 10 seconds or so. And the largest number of respondents say data analytics. The second largest say AI and machine learning. So the people who are practitioners in the field already, but I think we have a lot of people who are curious about it and are not yet using these skills.
Which is good to know, because that's why we are here, to help them in the career path.
So let's go on to the next question. And we talk about career paths, we talk about learning paths and educational paths that help people get to the career they want. And so are there basic building blocks, basic fundamental learning and paths that help people establish a foundation if they're uncertain where they want to go between data science and AI?
Yeah, I think the good point is there is quite some overlap. So you can have a foundation and you can go in different directions afterwards with this foundation, which is helpful. So both AI and data science, they have similar type of knowledge foundations. You can think about mathematics, but also statistics and programming skills, for example. So it's important to understand that data science career paths typically require knowledge in math, but also, for example, like statistics or probability or calculus and algebra. If we look to machine learning algorithms alongside performing analysis and discovering insights from data, they require math. Math is the core educational pillar for a data scientist. And regardless of your future or your industry or your career path, math is required. So it ensures that you can help an organization solve problems and innovate more quickly, but also optimize model performance, for example, or effectively apply complex data towards business type of challenges. So these areas, they are essential educational core for anyone interested in the field. And I think it's a good idea to get initial exposure to data science focused areas of education when you're in the process of deciding if data science is the best fit for you. So you can't go wrong. Focus on mathematics, on statistics and programming. So next to exploring different machine learning courses and branch out a little bit from there. So if this machine learning courses interested you, explore AI related courses, for example, like coding or data modeling or data mining or different kind of programming language, but also algorithms and visualization. So all data scientists, they need an understanding of coding and programming languages. And then you can think about the main ones, Python, Java, but also R, of course. And you also need a deep understanding about how to think about and apply algorithms. It's, I think, an obvious skill as well, and learning how to communicate. And this is something that not always everybody thinks about, how to communicate, how the model will be used and the results of that model, and how they're going to aid the decision-making process. So these skills need to be developed as well, which is not, it's a soft skill where what many data scientists often don't focus on, and that can, let's say, delay their career. Model development, that's another important part of the education path, because you need to understand how to adjust models and parameters according to get the desired outcome. For those maybe who are interested in analytics and in business, shape your skills in data mining, data wrangling and data modeling and database management. But also, for this part, programming languages like Python and R, as I just mentioned. But also you can think about SAS or C and C++. So take courses in data management, which involves many facets of managing data, such as cleansing, validation, but also storing, integration, processing, so you can unlock the full potential of what your data has to offer to your organization, and you really understand it. And this involves building strategies to bring value to your data and explain the strategies, communicate the strategies to your superiors as well. Another thing is to ensure you're developing skills to understand multiple analytical functions and work with unstructured data from various sources. Structured, unstructured data, there are many different type of data. Just try them out and find out where your skills are. And what we see as well, data analysts can normally do all kinds of basic descriptive statistics, and they can visualize the data. So in this case, course in data wrangling becomes essential for a data analyst, because it's in the process of cleaning and unifying your data so that it can be accessed and used for your analysis processes. So I realize it's a lot, and it's a lot of time and a lot of, let's say, education that's required. But take your steps and define your steps in these areas, so you have the right foundation, either whether you move more into data science or move more into AI. So Stuart, hopefully that's helpful.
Yes, it is. When people have this foundation and are looking ahead, how do you advise them to create a career roadmap and choose the best path to take, especially when it comes to choosing further training and education?
I think it's the essence of today. It's a great question, important for everybody, I think, in the audience, but not such an easy question, as everybody has its own background, its own ideas, its own hobbies. So if you are unsure of your career path that you want to take, I think what can work very well is to work backwards. So looking at a certain corresponding skill sets required under each path. So decide on the career choice that meets best the skills that you're ideally suited for, and you are interested in developing and work backwards. So do you want to become a machine learning engineer or a data scientist or business intelligence developers, or a data analyst, or maybe data architect, to just name a few, and we listed a couple of more before. There are many different career paths in your data science and AI journey, so you have to find it out. But if you work backwards, at least you have a certain direction and you know where to go, and you can find out if you really like it. And along your path, feel free to take where the flow brings you, and the flow brings you because the developments are going very quickly in this domain. So it's not always easy to predict which direction you are going in the next 5 to 10 years, as this whole domain is changing quite quickly. So check out which jobs are most interesting for you or meet your particular skills and your capabilities. And also, of course, the skills you like and the skills you're interested in and the skills you want to develop. So really follow your heart and what you really love and where you spend your time as well next to your job. That's the area where you want to develop, because then it doesn't feel like a job. And if your job becomes your passion, I think you're in the right direction. So look at the requirements that job positions offer as well. And in that your particular field that you're interested in. So study these type of job functions, what type of qualifications are needed in the hired field. So you can think about sites like Glassdoor or sites, I think like Indeed, and examine the job posting, what type of candidate and skills and experience these type of businesses really want and really ask. So you are sure that you are up to date with the skills that you are developing, that they match what is required in the market. You can also learn about different areas of your study depending on the career goals. So learn about the qualifications that businesses are looking for in the prospective hires. How much education do they need or do they require? Is it a bachelor degree or maybe even a master degree or even a PhD? That's important to define your strategy as well. Are these specific requirements from that organization that they might need from you? So if you really want to apply for it, can you match these type of requirements? Is there specific knowledge of a particular field or industry that you would be necessary to get your job that you want? And talking about industry, if you have specific industry knowledge and you have no background in math or no background in data science, you have a good position, because if you have industry knowledge, that's what organizations are looking for. If you can support it by initial analytic skills and data science skills, industry knowledge is very important. So if you move at a certain moment into a certain industry, that's where you can further grow, and that's what organizations are looking for, the combination of these skills plus the industry knowledge. Think about other skills, cultivate your communication skills. I mentioned already before, but it's important. Don't forget it. Storytelling capabilities. If you can explain it in 3 to 5 minutes what you're doing, that's what organizations like, because they think if you can explain it in 5 minutes and you can communicate it to your superiors or even to the board level, that's what they would like, because they don't often understand in detail what you are doing. So communication is crucial in this. Also in an industry, have some business acumen. Think about typical problems that they solve. Look at competitors. What type of problems do they solve with the help of data science or AI? What are the prioritization? Companies really looking continuously at each other. What is the other competitor doing? And do we need to do the same? So if you analyze this for them and come up with ideas, you're one step ahead. Think about collaboration type of skill set that you need. It's not something, although you maybe work now from home, it's not that you can do your job on your own. It's always a team sport right now, a team sport with different roles, different departments, and different skill sets within the data science teams as well. And stay on top of emerging technology trends. The technology is evolving so fast that some jobs maybe that you do today can be automated tomorrow. So you need to keep developing your skill sets and really watch closely to the market, which skill sets are replaced by AI now, maybe the coming year, the coming next years, because that's how you can, let's say, prevent that you learning yourself a skill that will be automated in the near future. This communication and storytelling skills, they're often overlooked, I think, by data scientists. I can't stress it enough. But they are essentially very important skill to develop. So not everyone who works in an organization is going to be a data scientist or understand data science the same way that you do. So being able to explain your skill and how you're working is really important for other people to understand in a simple way what you are doing. And one important part is here as well, is they have high expectations. If you start, the expectations are tremendous. They don't understand what is required to get results, and that the chance to get results is sometimes even very small. So you need to explain them what you do, what are the chances for failure, because otherwise they think you don't do your job well. And maybe you do your job perfectly, but either the infrastructure is not there, the skills are not there, the data is not there, the data quality is not there. So there's all kind of requirements based upon which your project cannot work out at this moment, maybe in the future, or the data sets are not right or not complete. So this is great for communication with people on the business side, but also with different stakeholders and people across the departments, so that they can understand how you are bringing value to them with the help of data and with the work you're working on right now, and how that will impact them and how that will impact their work as well, and how it often can augment their work. So that's important to communicate to your organization. Also, as last point, I think be sure to follow some companies that you're interested in working for on social media. So they provide maybe some information as potential job openings, but also areas of development, new type of developments they're investing in, new areas. Look at their labs, what type of areas they're investing in, because that's the foundation for a further rollout and new type of careers that they are often looking for. So there's quite some choices, Stuart, but I think some initial tips to get started.
Okay, thank you. So what would be an example of a specific educational career or training path, rather, for a data science career versus one for AI?
Yeah, I can only give an example, as there's hundreds of different paths that you can go for. So if you look from data science, let's say you choose your career in data science, and your ultimate career objective is to start as a data scientist and maybe eventually become a data science project manager in a big tech company. So you're going to need knowledge in statistical analysis, as well as knowledge in big data platforms, for example, in Hadoop. But also you can take courses in data science, in statistics, in analytics, in computer science, also even electrical engineering. So you know that so many popular tech organizations are using natural language processing right now. They use image recognition technologies. So that's something that you can focus on, and maybe you study hard to learn and to understand how you can gain an edge in the job market already by preparing this type of work, because these are the skills that these companies need. And then you can gain competencies in coding skills, get some experience in Python, in R, and maybe some other programming languages. And I think it doesn't matter what career path you choose. So you know, as a data scientist, you're going to need at least some level of coding experience. So it's always good to get this experience, even if you decide to branch off, maybe even to a business analyst or managerial role. It's always a great foundation. And then you want to maybe refine your skills, develop your skills in SQL or in machine learning techniques. You can think about classification or cross-validation or even maybe neural networks. Then you get some certifications, and you probably want to obtain a higher education degree, move to either bachelor or a master in statistics or in computer science or in mathematics. And then you need to focus on the ongoing skills and the education. So you always need to educate yourself and really watch the market closely from what type of demand there would be, and maybe even get additional certifications for your career. I think that's for data science an example. If we take an example for a career in AI, and yeah, it's one of the most important and impactful job fields at the current time. It's one of the hottest jobs. So your career objective, for example, is becoming a machine learning engineer for a large social network company, and eventually maybe lead a machine learning engineering team. So you can start with the fundamentals in statistics, with the fundamentals in probability, in data modeling, data visualization, data analysis. And then you probably want to narrow your areas of study to most of your courses in machine learning, in deep learning, or even develop your reinforcement learning skills as well, which can be related to your statistical skills for each respective area of your study. After that, you can move on to courses in your programming skills, as mentioned as well. This is always the right path, and you can't go wrong. Python, R, maybe C++, and combine them with your mathematic courses like calculus, like linear algebra, and for example, data modeling. As a next step, then you want to gain competencies in computer science, maybe in programming, like computer architecture or data structures, maybe algorithms or software engineering and system design. So also, some let's say more developed type of machine learning, the supervised and the unsupervised learning area, where you want to experience more implementing machine learning models. You can think about using the logistic regression or the k-means clustering, develop these type of skills, and with the certifications in this area, I think you have a solid chance getting more visibility in job opportunities, and you can obtaining higher educations. You can go to your master or your PhD, and you could even consider a postgraduate program with more in-depth knowledge, where you can think about TensorFlow or NLP or computer vision, for example. So this is just one example for each direction, but I think there are 100 different paths, and follow your heart, follow your passion. I think that's important from both industry and from skill set. And based upon this, try to find organizations that need your skill set, from both the industry as well as the technical skill set. So for anyone who's looking up, maybe some final thoughts for anyone who's looking up their educational path to either data science or to AI. I think just remember there's no right or wrong way. That's, I think, the most important message. So there's no conclusive area to focus on first. You have to think about what you really like, what you're interested in, and not be afraid to explore and to experiment with different learning paths. And do something next to your job, what you like, because that's the area probably that you really love. And for those who are already in a professional, as a professional in a certain area, always keep educating yourself, because the chance is quite likely that your area will be automated in the coming years. So you need to keep developing yourself. And the business and technology landscape, they are changing. And on the other hand, I think we are in the midst of a rapid advancement and evolutions in our industry due to this pandemic. The tech vendors, they grow even more rapidly. So they invest even more in new advancements and new type of technologies. So it's a smart move to continuously strive towards acquiring new skills, skills that interest you, that further enhance your existing capabilities, but also gain new ones to get a better job, to get a different job, or develop the job that you're in right now. If we look to demand for AI, demand for data science, it's rising. Don't worry about that. And for both fields, we have remained fairly immune to a lot of uncertainties that we have seen in the last years. So the demand will be there. Start with your basic programming, start with statistics, start with mathematics, and try some machine learning courses out, and then go from there. So no matter which educational path you will start with first. Once you gain your fundamental knowledge base, you are in a great position to shape your career trajectory in a way that looks best for you and that fits your unique goals.
Thank you. Ronald, we're running to the end of the presentation time, and I'd like to, if you have time, for you to be able to take a couple of questions. We have so many coming in from the audience. But first, I'd like to run that last poll, give you a chance to rest your voice. And this last poll is basically the same as the previous one, but looking forward. What skills are you in the audience interested in learning and adding to your toolkit, adding to your repertoire to build your career in data science and AI and machine learning? And we'll just give this about another minute. And there's already a trend I can see from my end, which is AI and machine learning is by far the most popular choice in the poll. Give you about another 15 seconds to get your answers in. Remember to hit enter. And then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And yes, you can see AI and machine learning by far the most popular answer in today's poll.
Not a surprise.
So let's move on to the questions. As I said, there are so many, but we only have time for a few. I do want to ask a question from Doris about how AI and machine learning affect management strategy, management decisions, especially how you see management strategy being integrated with business forecasting and predictive analytics.
Yeah, I think if you look for management strategy, and I think the pandemic really changed management strategies as well. Companies now first had to look at their cash flow. That's how they started the management strategy once the pandemic started, and have an organizational-wide cash flow insight that was to get back to let's say operation. From there, if they have their cash flow clear, they wanted to have clear views of their strategy from insights from the supply chain. Because if you can't deliver your product because there is a pandemic in the area from your production, you have a challenge in selling it. And the third one is what from strategy perspective is what can you sell and what's in demand. And you can imagine, so last week there was a retailer who had a digital channel, a physical channel, and their physical channel, the 4 pillars they had, 2 were digital and 2 were physical, and they were fully closed. So you can imagine that your strategy goes upside down from one day to the other. If one channel or 2 channels even are closed from the 4 pillars, and this was a large company in luxury products. So nowadays, strategy is really defining on what's happening in the market. I think that's one part. Then I think the other part for strategy, what's important is there's 2 types of companies right now as I see them. Companies who really suffer due to this pandemic, airlines, hotels, restaurants, every type of company who is really affected. So they really try to get their act together, save their money, focus on cost saving. So all the strategies they can develop to save cost and to save cash and to reorganize their structure. That's where their focus will be at. then you have the companies that really thrive, especially the tech companies. I'm not sure, Stuart, I hear a lot of noise from a microphone. So I think there is a number of companies that really thrive. You can think about the technology companies, and they really look at, okay, how to have a solid foundation. And these technology companies have already a foundation. And the foundation, I mean, a data management platform where they can collect the data, where they can manage the data and develop new type of tools and services on top of it. And they really look at new type of opportunities. So how to further digitize their business, especially from a customer perspective. So how to help customers better, faster, with a better customer experience. So they will define the areas, natural language processing, conversational AI, predictive analytics with predicting what you're going to buy or where you're going to click at. So that's the two type of companies, and I think now it's wise to focus on the companies who really can thrive. They have the money. They double down on investments from new people, from new skills, from new technologies, and the other ones, yeah, they have a hard time. So they will do everything to cut cost. If you are in a good position and know how to cut cost, then you have a good position with, let's say, the companies that have a hard time as well. But otherwise, focus on the ones that can really thrive and can benefit from the pandemic to do more digital or are already fully digital.
Thanks. Thank you. We have a question from somebody who asked whether a high school level of mathematics is sufficient to get started in data science, or is something additional required?
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit from what your high school level is. For me, it's not clear in all the different countries what the level is. If I compare it to European levels, if you are a star, at least you can learn very quickly. So it's for sure enough to start and to learn in parallel. But I think if you start developing and you want to develop your further self, focus more on a bachelor. But to start, I think anyhow, if you look to all the capabilities that new technologies are offering, but also new type of tools, it becomes easier and easier to develop and to model yourself, where the skill sets, it's important to know, but it's not important to know everything. So I always believe in start trying it yourself and discover it. And if you have the basic skills, let's say the high school type of skills, and you pick it up quickly, it can move you forward very, very quickly. And at a certain moment, you will discover where you're facing, let's say, your restrictions. On the other hand, I see quite some developments where these restrictions are solved by better technology that augments you in taking and creating each next step. So your skill set becomes, let's say, important to understand, but less important to do it because this part will be automated. I hope I make it clear what I mean. But yeah, I think, yes, you can start, but see where you get, where you find your limitation. If you find your limitation, then continue your education in mathematics.
Question from someone in our YouTube live audience who asks, is it possible to work for Amazon online as a data scientist or AI? I think they're asking if you can work remotely.
Yeah, so I think what's changed, to give you a little bit of statistics, I did a webcast last week with a large a telecom provider, Cisco. They did research, and initially, before the pandemic, only 5% worked from home. Now, 89% of the people, they like to have some kind of hybrid model of working from home and working in the office. And you can imagine still there's the pandemic, and most of the people, they they work from home. But even after this pandemic, which will come in a certain period, I'm not going to do a forecast about this, but organizations really shifted their mind in working on distance. So I think from the coming months, the coming years, it will not go back to the old situation anymore, and it will be much easier to work on distance. Then is the question, okay, can you do it for Amazon or not? On one hand, what I see in general is that large technology companies, they are much more flexible compared to traditional companies for people to work from home. So they even say, and if you look to companies like Microsoft, Facebook, Google, some say, okay, till January, you cannot come into the office. Some say till June or July, you can't come into the office, or you're free to do so. So these companies stimulate working from home. And then what you see already is the realization, okay, does this person need to be in the US? Does he need to be in San Francisco at the highest square meter price, which is probably there in the whole of US, or maybe even from the square meter price globally? Or can you work on a very large distance and only go once half a year or a certain period to your team and meet physically? So I think the opportunities from working on distance are going to substantially increase the coming months and the coming years.
What about learning long distance? We have a guest from Liberia who asks, what are the opportunities to learn data science in a country that doesn't have much of that teaching infrastructure? What would the options be for somebody to pursue that education and training?
Yeah, I think the location doesn't matter so much anymore. What does matter is your drive. You need to have proper internet access, and you need to be willing to develop your skills, and you need to contact organizations where you can develop your skills, so that offer the opportunities to develop your skills. So on one hand, you have let's say the education you do, the formal type of education, and you have the education you do at organizations. On the other hand, what you still will see is if you can learn from other people in a physical setting, that's also very helpful. But as a data scientist, you can work remotely, you can learn from others while not being in the same room. So I don't think it's hindering you that you're in a different location. I can imagine that, let's say, companies sometimes have preferences from people in certain regions that are well known for high quality data scientists, and yeah, India of course is a great area known for well educated data scientists, and that for some countries you're not seen as an area that is very well developed. But there, I think in the end, it depends on your own drive, on your own capability to communicate with these countries, to show that you are the best, and to be very proactive in your communication, in approaching them. And as long as you have the skills and they want you, yeah, you will get there.
Just a couple more questions. One is if you could comment on the definition of big data and how it differs from data analytics.
Yeah, so if you look to big data and data analytics, so big data is all the data collection, the data engineering, the data processing, the machine learning algorithms. And if you look to data analytics, it's providing the insights in this data, visualize this insights, and take actions, or make it possible to take actions on these insights, which is more the analytics part and the insights part. So one is more the whole data pipeline, and the other one is more how to convert the data into valuable insights and help the people in the organization that they can take either the decision themselves or they can do the analysis themselves.
Great, thank you. That's very succinct. We had several questions regarding data science and AI and logistics, procurement, and fashion. And I just wanted to make one point about a company, the Spanish company Zara, which transformed itself and became a global fashion powerhouse through the use of data science and logistics, being able to predict trends by analyzing its store sales, and looking for what was hot and then shifting production to that and being able to deliver through their logistics pipeline quickly. And that's an example of how these things converge between functional areas and industry areas. So, and I think the last question we're going to ask, several people wanted to know what type of hardware setup they would need to own personally in order to study data science and AI machine learning.
Yeah, so I think on one hand, you can buy hardware yourself, but on the other hand, you can have it all available in the cloud. And the exact setup, really depends on what you want to do. So, for example, NVIDIA just came on the market with Jetson. I was mentioned this already in the beginning, where you can have, you can build your own computer vision application or tool with a device from just $50. But if you want to analyze petabytes of data, then you need totally different server capability than if you want to do such a computer vision application, which you can do on a $50 NVIDIA type of tool. So it's hard to say, oh, this is what you need. But I think there's two ways to go: buy all the hardware yourself, or say, okay, what hardware is available in the cloud, and what can I use? And I'm quite in favor of doing the last part. So the more you can use your cloud type of environments, the easier it makes it for you, and the better you can scale as you need the compute power. So all the different cloud platforms basically support this, and you can move from there, whether you are working on Azure or Google Cloud or AWS or Oracle or IBM. They all facilitate the different workloads, the different tools, the different processing power, all on demand. And the only thing what you need is an internet connection.
And I would mention also that the education and certification programs that Simplilearn offers include virtual environments for doing all the labs and projects, so that you don't need to invest in heavy-duty computing power on your own. So thank you, Ronald. This has been a fantastic webinar. I think we had a few technical issues with WebEx not transmitting the first few slides, which I apologize for. We will be sending out a recording of the webinar to the attendees, and hopefully those problems will be resolved. But I do want to thank you for sharing your knowledge and going in depth into these questions. I hope that it's been very helpful to the attendees in making some plans for developing their career and exploring both data science and AI ML.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
If you go ahead, and I'd like to show people how to get in touch with you.
Let me. So either on LinkedIn, on Twitter, if you Google my name, I'm on 6 different social platforms. So you can follow me on different platforms, which makes it easy. I'm easy to reach, and I publish a lot of content in this domain. So I'm happy to if you follow me.
Great. and certainly also follow Simplilearn. But we would like to mention the next webinar coming up, which is on the subject of digital marketing. And that will be 1 week from today on Thursday, November 5th, same time, with expert Brad Geddes, who is the co-founder of Adalisis and also a PPC chair at Simplilearn. We'll be talking about the 20 things you need to know now about PPC. And so look forward to seeing you at that webinar if digital marketing is an area of interest. And if it's not, but you know people who are interested in that, please feel free to tell them about the webinar and invite them. And we want to thank you all for being here. We want to thank Ronald again for his expertise in this presentation. And we will, if you go ahead, Ronald, to the next.
Yep.
These are ways you can keep in touch with Simplilearn through Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And please feel free to reach out to us. I know that we couldn't answer everybody's questions today. There's just so many of them, but we will try to follow up with information about this webinar, with a recording of the webinar, and we look forward to seeing you at future webinars with Simplilearn. So that concludes today's presentation. And again, thank you all.
Thank you.